Hi and welcome to GRVO TV, G's Reviews, Views and Opinions. I'm doing a review on a lens which I have reviewed before, but I sold it because I had other lenses which sort of overlapped, so I didn't need it. I've changed my system now, and I sort of had a bit of a gap, and the Olympus 45mm f1.8 fills that gap. I wanted a low light lens. I like shooting tight shots, so I didn't need a wide angle, and this lens I bought brand new, £150, a couple $100. It's great value, and it just suits my shooting really well. So it's equivalent to a 90mm. That's a reasonably good portrait lens. It's absolutely tiny. That's with the hood on. I'll take the hood off. It's absolutely tiny little thing. It doesn't come with a hood, but I had an old hood, and this comes with a. It's called a. I don't know what it's called. It's just a plastic ring that covers up the bayonet fitting on the front, and I think they call it like a cosmetic ring or something like that. So I glued this little hood that I had to the cosmetic ring, and then that gives me a bayonet fitting lens hood, because the one, if you buy the Olympus one, it's about 30 quid, so that works to treat. But as you can see, it's a tiny little lens. There's not a lot to it. There's just a focusing ring, which is actually quite nice and smooth, and for manual focus this lens works really well, especially with the focus peaking and the punching that you get automatically when you go manual on the GX8. The fact that there's no manual autofocus buttons on the side of the lens makes no issues at all, because I've got the lever on the camera, so I can just flick straight into manual focus, and then I get the punch in and the focus peaking automatically. I can move the punch in around on the screen, and the focusing is smooth, predictable. It doesn't jump or snap, or it's just nice, absolutely fine. But manual focus is not really where it's at with this lens. The autofocus is just so near, far, near, far, near, far, near, far, near, near. It's not as quick as some of the Panasonic lenses, but it's as quick as you ever need it to be. Now and again it will miss, but it's just sort of bang bang, no problems at all. I mean, I was actually trying to focus on something through a glass with a reflection there, so it was getting a bit fooled by the reflection sometimes. But in practice, the autofocus is fast, accurate, snappy, lovely, no issues with it at all. The main benefit of this lens is the shallow depth of field and the nice blurred background, the bokeh. It's not just about the background being blurred, because you can get that with most lenses. It's the quality of the bokeh as well, and with this it's a really nice, pleasing bokeh. And if you can get close to your subject and your background is far away, the more you can do that, the better the separation becomes. And it works really well. So when people are worried that by going to micro four thirds they're going to lose the ability to get shallow depth of field, I'll show some photos that actually prove that that is not the case. It's actually quite easy to get shallow depth of field with micro four thirds sensors. I can do it with my 40 to 150 lens. That's 100 second hand. That's 100 and about £100 lens. You can get shallow depth of field. This brand new lens was 150 quid. You can get shallow depth of field with this, no problem at all. So I won't go into it too much. I don't see any issues with image quality. If I go back to I had the Nikon 85mm f1.8D lens. Now that was a lovely lens, a beautiful chunk of glass, but you couldn't really shoot it at 1.8 in all conditions, because the image would go slightly soft, you would suffer horrendous chromatic aberration if you had any highlight areas in the scene, and you ended up stopping it down to about 2.8 anyway to get rid of all that. This, happy to use it wide open at f1.8 all day long. It's sharp across the image. Yes, you'll get a little bit of fall off in the corners, but you would expect that, and it's not bad enough to worry about. If you stop it down to, you know, f2.8 and beyond, it gets even sharper, but it's really not noticeable. You're buying a lens, you know, 1.8 lens to shoot at 1.8, in my opinion. So you can shoot all day long at 1.8, no issues with this at all. I don't see any issues with chromatic aberration, but I do know that the camera does sort of sort that out anyway, and it does a good job of that, especially the GXA. It never seems to have any problems with those kind of issues. I don't see anywhere near as many issues like that as I used to with my my D7000 and my D610 cameras like that. They just don't appear to be a problem with these Micro Four Thirds lenses and body combinations. They seem to sort it all out. The only downside of this is the minimum focusing distance is 1.6 feet, which is about half a metre. So you're not going to get any kind of macro ability out of this. Although if you shoot as close as you can and you crop a little bit, you can get a kind of macro effect. But this is the kind of lens that I would probably just screw just a 2x macro converter on the front, and that would get you a little bit closer, and then you'd be able to do some sort of cheap macro. But it certainly isn't a close focusing macro lens. That's the only sort of downside. And obviously there's no image stabilisation built in. So if you're putting this on an unstabilised camera, like say for instance the Panasonic G7, if you put this on there, remember that's a 90mm equivalent on a G7, so you really want to be shooting that at a minimum of 1/100th of a second, whereas I can handhold this at about, you know, a half a second with the image stabilisation. And you can shoot down to silly, like 1/10 of a second is no problem at all with the image stabilisation. But if you haven't got the image stabilisation, you know, you want to be shooting at 1/100th of a second and above to make sure you get that nice sharp image, unless you're on a tripod, obviously. So there you go. The only other thing I don't like about it is I prefer a centre pinch cap rather than this edge pinch cap, especially as, you know, once you've got the hood on, you have to flick the edge to get the cap out. That's the only downside. But really, as lenses go, it's a bit of a no-brainer, really. It has now got competition. The Panasonic 42.5. When I was looking at it, was about double the price. So for me, because I've got a stabilised body, this is absolutely fine. If you haven't and you want the stabilisation in the lens, the Panasonic is a slightly better lens, but it is a lot more money. And then of course you've got the Panasonic 42.5 Nocticron, which is a 1.2, a huge chunk of glass, and about, I don't know, about 10 times the price of this lens. So that's, you know, that's not even one I would even look at. So there you go. This is my just quick update on my latest lens, which is the Olympus 45mm f1.8. This is GRVO TV, G's Reviews, Views and Opinions. I'll see you soon. Bye.